So now, the next thing I need to teach you is that motion of gripping the slide, pulling it back and let it go, right? Do it from a couple of angles, right? Putting it back and let it go. That's called racking your slide. You need to rack your slide to put the Glock back together. Okay, a lot of these guns, semi-automatic pistols, when you reassemble it, you have to be able to rack the slide back. Okay? You need to rack the slide to load these things, chamber round. You need to rack the slide to unload these things. This is a very difficult thing for beginners because you're being asked to use your weaker hand and you're not used to having to rely on this hand. So for a lot of you, this is going to be super difficult, but don't worry. I'm going to show you there's two methods to doing this. One is inefficient, the other one is more efficient. And there's even accessories you can buy to make it easy for you. So don't worry, folks, okay? For those folks that have limited hand strength, limited upper body strength, I've been teaching for 5 years, people of all different abilities. We have found so many ways to help you do this, okay? So don't be discouraged if you have a hard time with this at first, okay? There are many ways to do this efficiently for you, okay? But let's talk about the way I don't want you to do it. But you see people do it, so you need to know what it is. It's called the slingshot. The slingshot is you pinch the slide back here like a slingshot, and then you pull it back and you let it go like a slingshot, okay? Why don't we like this way? Well, this pinching motion, this is a fine motor skill. The problem with fine motor skill is under pressure, under panic, under fight or flight, you lose the ability to do fine motor control, okay? Can you imagine under a panic? Oh my gosh, I'm fumbling. Oh my God, I can't get a good hold. Okay, that's detrimental, okay? Second problem with this grip, by pinching it, there's a weird angle on your wrist, okay? It's not good leverage. Some of you will be like, oh my God, why is it so difficult, right? Because not good leverage. And then third problem with this way of doing it, you have no choice but to keep the gun far away from you to do this, right? Well, just like when you're opening a jar, is it easier to open the jar away from your body or close to your body? It's always easier to open a jar close to your body, but you cannot bring this gun close to you using this method. So you can't even use the benefit of your upper body leverage, okay? These are reasons why we don't teach people that method, okay? What is a more efficient method? Monkey grip. Monkeys have no opposable thumbs. They clamp with all their 4 fingers, okay? So here's the monkey grip, folks. Take the butt of your support hand, right on the ridges towards the back of the slide. Wrap your 4 fingers over the top, right? Just clamp over the top, okay? See that? You can be next to the ejection port. That's totally okay, depending on your hand size. Just don't be over it. You can be next to it. Do not be over it, okay? That's where the boo-boo time happens with the Band-Aids. No. Back here on the slide, okay? Now, why is this more efficient? Watch. Grabbing something with all your fingers is a more gross motor skill that is more intuitive and natural, especially under duress, than this fine motor skill, right? Right, more natural. 2, look, straight angle on my wrist. You got more leverage, straight angle, okay? And here's a true benefit of this method of monkey gripping or clamping. You can bring the gun close to you, right? You can bring the gun close to your body. Why? Like opening a jar. You know when you open a jar, you're twisting the 2 hands in opposite directions against each other, right? Why don't you use the benefit of both of your hands and arms? The same thing when racking the slide. When you're monkey gripping and clamping it, bring it close to your body. Look what you can do. I'm not just gonna pull the slide back, I'm also gonna push the gun forward away from me. Watch this. See that? For those of you who have a problem with racking the slide, once you put both your arms into it, both your hands in opposite motions, most people in my class, regardless of their body size and abilities, can now rack the slide. See that? Both. This one moves back, this one moves forward. This one moves back, this one moves forward at the same time. Okay. Common mistakes. Do not ride the slide. What do I mean? Do not do this. Pull it back and then hold on to it as it goes forward. You're actually slowing it down. Don't hold on to it. It's called riding the slide. If you actually hold on to it, you're actually slowing the mechanism down. You might cause it to jam and not fully chamber around. It does not need your help going forward. It just needs your help going backwards. And then you just let it go. See, like that. Okay, so never hold on to it or let it or slow it down. Just let it go. Okay. If you still are, let's say you are a very petite person, you have very limited upper body strength, okay? You need that extra oomph, okay? Add this, watch. If you still, it's still difficult, okay, you might need an extra oomph of this motion, okay? I need you to lock your hips. Your whole upper body's locked, and you're not just pushing with your arm. I need you to rotate your hips and thrust through with your entire upper body. It's all about being assertive, folks. Okay, like throwing a punch, like thrusting shoulders, hips in the direction that you want to move the gun away from you. Okay, so folks, for those folks that need an extra body leverage, watch this. I'm going to rotate my hips and my shoulders as I'm thrusting with my entire body, like I'm trying to throw a punch, right? I guarantee you, a lot of you folks that have difficulty because you're afraid to assert and use your whole body. Okay, you can do this if you put your entire body behind this motion and push the gun away from you. Hold on tight to the, clamp on tight to the slide and push assertively. Okay, folks? That's efficient body mechanics, okay? Now, if you still have problems, no problem. Let me show you some stuff. So, folks, I'm a big believer that anyone should be able to access their ability to own and operate firearms, especially the most marginalized, vulnerable people. And many marginalized, vulnerable people, we get elderly folks. We get folks who are disabled, folks using walkers, folks in wheelchairs, domestic abuse survivors, folks that are very petite, folks who have range of motion, previous injuries. I'm always looking for solutions out there to help these folks. No one should feel left out, okay? These guns may seem complicated, and oftentimes they are complicated, but there are solutions we can find for you, okay? I'm kind of like that nerd that never gives up. I'm kind of like a problem solver. If someone comes to me and they say they can't do something, well, hold on there. Let me see what your situation is, and let me see if I can solve it, okay? And so in helping so many different people with different abilities, right? One of the most difficult things about these pistols is using your weaker hand to have to manipulate this slide, okay? I actually had someone who, because they couldn't do this, they just thought, I'll get a revolver because I can't manipulate this thing. I'll get a revolver. I give up. And I felt really bad for that person because that's not the solution, is to give up and then get a really antiquated, wheel gun. Okay, this is a modern gun, right? Get your modern gun. There are ways to manipulate it, okay? There are ways to find, solutions that are more inclusive of people's abilities. And I've got 3 solutions here that I found. One is made by Recover Tactical. Big fan of what they do. This part here is like $20, okay? What it is it gives you a bigger wedge on the back. You can install it by 2 screws. Very simple install. You don't even need to take apart the gun to do that. Comes on real easy, screws on real easy, and because you now have this bigger wedge, if you want to use a slingshot, even though we don't prefer it, but if that's what works for you, there's a bigger piece for you to grab onto, okay, versus slipping off if there wasn't that big wedge, right? If you want to do the clamp method, same thing. This bigger wedge makes it very easy to grab onto. More surface area, basically, okay? Big fan of this. I was checking out there for preparing for this video. I want to see what else they got going on recently. I hadn't seen this part yet, so this must be part of their newer line. It is still that big wedge, but it also has this handle at the top. Okay, this handle at the top. Okay, the handle at the top is see-through, so it doesn't interfere with your iron sights. You can still use your iron sights, but now with this handle, you can also have the option of using your whole hand, right? The butt of your hand to then use that leverage. See that? Big handle up here, okay? That might help some of the folks that just simply don't have the finger strength. If you don't got the finger strength, use your entire hand, okay? Like this with the big handle, okay? So that's great. And then here's another option. Put a ring on it, yeah? Put a ring on it. I actually tried this one out today with my students. A couple of students, they really like this, okay? With this ring on the back of the slide, you just gotta hook your finger in there. There, right? Easy. Okay? So the ring is an option too. These are 3 very good options. So folks, now you know how to rack the slide, whether you do it manually, unassisted, good ergonomics behind it, or you need the assistive devices. So many options. Let's talk about loading these guns. I got a magazine with the fake dummy rounds for demonstration. And so let's learn about loading these guns. Okay, make a gun, take a gun, remember that? Index your magazine, right? We went over that already. Insert assertively, okay? And then these guns, they're kind of dumb devices. They kind of rely on us for stuff. And one of the first things they rely on you for is you have to load the first round into the chamber yourself. You can't do it on its own. Okay, so now that you folks know how to efficiently rack the slide, let's talk about how we load these guns. Okay, so make a gun, take a gun. Index your magazine. Insert your magazine assertively, okay? And these guns are kind of dumb devices. They kind of rely on us for stuff that they can't do on their own. One of the things they can't rely on, or they need us to do, is to load the first round, right? You have to, these semi-automatic pistols, load the first round in the chamber yourself. You have to chamber around the very first one yourself. How do we do that? By racking the slide, like I talked about, right? As soon as you load the magazine, it has some rounds in it waiting to be loaded. You clamp your slide, you rack it. Remember, don't ride the slide, just let it go. It needs that full momentum of force to fully seat the round, strip it off the magazine into the chamber. Watch. With confidence. The gun's not loaded. Now, let me explain to you the safeties on a Glock. On the face of your trigger, there is a trigger safety. It's a little latch on the face of your trigger. It's to ensure that the trigger can only be squeezed if your finger is fully on the face of the trigger. If your finger is not fully on that face of the trigger and that latch isn't being squeezed, the trigger safety. For instance, if I try to squeeze the trigger from the sides, nothing's gonna happen, okay? Trigger safety. There's the drop safety inside I talked about earlier when we disassembled the pistol. The firing pin is trapped inside. There's no way it could physically touch the primer, okay? We could literally drop this gun, it's not gonna go off. It's designed not to go off. It's drop safe. You buy a handgun brand new in California, by law, these guns, any handgun you buy in California is legally required to be drop safe, okay? All right, those are the safeties, okay? And I call them passive safeties because you don't have to worry about them, okay? You don't have to worry about them. The safeties are active. The moment you decide to put your finger on the trigger safety, and you squeeze, those safeties turn off. The Glock fires, the safeties turn back on. You don't have to think about it, okay? All right, now to unload these guns, the first thing you wanna do to unload these guns is drop your magazine, okay? First step. Second step is now you get to know what this slide lock does. This lever that I wanted to know if you can reach with your thumb. It's important, right? I needed to know if you can reach it with your thumb because that's how you need to manipulate this thing to now clear your chamber and lock your slide open, okay? So here's the inefficient way I've seen too many people do. This is inefficient, and folks try to muscle it. And you know, folks try to have a hard time racking the slide, okay? I will see people try to pull the slide back, and they're tiring themselves out, and then they try to use your thumb to push the slide lock up. That is super inefficient. Okay, there's a much more efficient way to do that. So let me do it the efficient way for you. Okay, I'll do it from the beginning again. Make a gun, take a gun. Index your magazine, insert your magazine. Here we go. You manually rack the slide. Load the first one in chamber. There you go. Here's the efficient way to unload your gun. First of all, drop your magazine. Now, instead of racking first, you should use your thumb to press the slide lock up first, tightly up against the slide. If you use the side of your thumb, super awkward, not enough leverage. If I were you, scoot around, scoot around, scoot around, remember that? And then use the tip of your thumb, you will have more leverage. Here's the key. Press the slide lock up tightly with your thumb, hold it pressed up, do not let go of that thumb, right? Do not relax that pressure. And if you have to, right, turn your body to the gun, so you have good leverage, like open your jar, bring it close to you, and with confidence, right? With confidence, as you're pressing the slide lock up tightly with your thumb, rack it with confidence. The round in the chamber will be ejected for you, and your thumb holding the slide lock up tightly from the first place, it locks when it locks. You don't have to worry about it. It'll lock when it locks if you're being assertive, okay? And now you can show one of your buddies, if you're shooting together, you verify the gun's unloaded, right? There's no magazine in there, and you stare down into the ejection port to look at the chamber, make sure it's empty. This gun is now unloaded. Okay, that's how you verify a gun's unloaded. There's no magazine, and the chamber is empty. You have to visually check that yourself. Everyone in your group should do that. Okay, we did that beginning of this filming. I had every part of the film crew along with me. We verified the guns were unloaded at the beginning of our filming, just like that. Nobody takes anybody's word for anything. Folks, I realize some of you, with your limited hand strength, when you're new to these pistols, unloading them may be super difficult for you to lock the slide open. I realize that. Don't worry until you build the proper hand strength on this weaker hand. There is plan B. Watch, you take the magazine out, and then you try to lock the slide open, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. Oh, it came out of the chamber, awesome, but we still need you to lock your slide open. If you can't lock your slide open, don't worry. Here's plan B until you build up the hand strength. Plan B, the alternative way. You can't lock the slide open by yourself manually? Simple. Grab your magazine in your other hand, thumb on the back, empty your magazine. I don't care where you go, just empty it. Once you have an empty magazine, insert your empty magazine. Guess what, folks? If you're having difficulty locking a slide open, your empty magazine does it for you. Once you have an empty magazine in, don't worry about that slide lock. Just rack the slide. There, your empty magazine did it for you. Did you a favor. Once it's locked your slide open for you, then get rid of your magazine. Check that the chamber is empty, and there you go.
Okay, where are my southpaws at, my left-handed folks? I feel for you. I had a client this past weekend who was born left-handed, and he related to the class how he grew up in a generation where in school, even though he was left-handed, he was forced to write right-handed and forced to do everything right-handed. And thankfully, we're not living in those dark ages of intolerance anymore. But the gun world is still very right-hand biased. And so a lot of the guns you're going to find aren't going to be automatically ambidextrous for you, especially as I mentioned in California, we're much more limited in our handgun options that we can purchase. And I've had so many clients left-handed who've had to figure out how to do things with their left hand. And some of the things I've seen, not very optimal, is using their trigger finger to try and release the magazine, okay, or to use their same finger up here to release the slide lock, right? And same thing, whether you're trying to release it or lock it open, they'll try to rack the slide and then use their trigger finger to do that. Okay, even I can't even do that really easily, right? I'm not left-handed, but they've had to somehow, finagle away with their trigger finger. And you see, you should be getting nervous as I'm struggling to do this, because what's going on as a left-handed person? If I'm struggling to move my trigger finger around to do different things, what could happen? Oopsie, right? So from a safety standpoint, folks, from a safety standpoint, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, you should never be using your trigger finger for anything but manipulating the trigger. Okay, that's the only function or job the trigger finger should be doing. Okay, you should not be trying to rely on the trigger finger to do other things than that, because it should only have one dedicated purpose that you're worried about, either on the trigger when you decide to fire the gun or not on the trigger. That's it. As kind of a going off on a tangent, that's the reason why in my more advanced classes where we do holster draw, we also don't allow Serpa type holsters. Okay, for those of you who are curious, and later on when you do holster training, I don't even own that type of holster, but there are holsters that literally require you using your trigger finger to press the lever to release the gun from the holster. That is also dangerous because under panic or inattention, using your trigger finger to press the little lever to then release your gun and pull out your holster, people have shot themselves. Okay, so there are many reasons why we don't want to use or rely on this trigger finger, other than just manipulating the trigger. Okay, so what are the better ways for you folks, left-handed, to be able to lock your slide open? If your gun is ambidextrous and the slide lock is located on that side, well, the more, I would say, by the way, these ends are unloaded, as you can see, okay? The alternative way is to, with your right hand, left hand, folks, grab the gun like this. Wrap your 4 fingers over the back of the slide, okay? And then your thumb is going to be straight down the frame, okay? Why is that more efficient? Because now, I'm going to try to do it this way. You see the angle on the camera. You can then rack it back, use your thumb on the slide lock and put it up into that notch, and then let it go. And when you do that, right, by using your right thumb to lift the slide lock up into the notch, you're going to be able to lock your slide open. Okay, as a left-handed person on a non-ambidextrous right-handed gun. Okay, I will do that again for you as a left-hander. Okay, I will go ahead and I will close the slide to start from there. Okay, and again, it's at first it's going to feel kind of awkward. Helps to turn your gun sideways if you can extend your arms out to get that angle. Okay, 4 fingers down. Okay, I'll try to flip it over a little bit so you can see the slide lock. Your thumb, if you see there's the notch that you have to line up with the slide lock for it to lock open, for it to move it into that position, right? Your thumb, if you have short thumbs, your thumb is not able to reach that notch over there, then this method may not work for you, okay? But try it out first. And the key thing is, you could be around the ejection port. Remember, this is the mousetrap, the potentially dangerous area, right? You could be around this, just don't be over it. Okay, you might snap shutting yourself attempting this, okay? So again, right, around 4 fingers, wrapped around the slide behind the ejection port, okay? Rack it back, use your thumb, there's my thumb, there's a slide lock, move the slide lock up into the little notch, and then let it go. It should be locked open for you, okay? If you can't do that easily, or your thumb cannot reach the notch, well, like I said, the other alternative for a lot of folks with difficulty locking slide manually is just insert it into the magazine and then just wrap your slide. There. An empty magazine locks your slide for you. Okay? That's the alternative way. And then as a left-handed person, right, if the magazine release is also not ambidextrous, with your right index finger, reach around. The right here, magazine release, right, is right behind the trigger. And by the way you grip the pistol, it should already be exposed between these 2 fingers, right? For you to just, press it in, and the magazine will fall. Okay? So left-handers, that's 2 ways right there for you to lock your slide open. Or try and find a gun that's ambidextrous. Make your life easier, okay? Try and find a gun that's ambidextrous. We live in California with our limited options. There's a pistol that's been super popular with our students in our Pistol 102 buying first gun when they try different guns. is the Ross Martin R1MC. It's a new company based in Texas. You can call this like a Glock clone as a striker-fired pistol. Okay, $500. So budget gun. My students have been very happy with it, trying it out. It comes optic ready, right? Just remove the plate. You have a red dot or a green dot, whatever pistol optic you want on there. So it's got many great benefits, right? Budget gun, optic ready, and guess what? It's ambidextrous, folks, for left-handed folks. Okay, so these are the right-handed controls, and on this side for left-handers, yay! Now you got the same side lock and the same mag release on that side for the left-handed folks. So check this out. As a left-handed person, yes, you can now release your magazine, and just like the right-handed folks with the slide lock. Well, let me take the magazine out so I can close the slide. There you go. Slide lock on both sides. So now you could do it the way that it was intended. Just use your thumb, your firing thumb, lift the slide lock up tightly against the slide, okay? Without relaxing that thumb, wrap the slide. And there you go. Okay. As you can see, I am more naturally a righty than lefty, so it took me a few attempts. Let me see if I can do that cleaner on the first attempt this time. Okay. So with my thumb, if I had to scoot around, using my thumb tip for more leverage, not relaxing that thumb this time. Okay, make sure I'm pressing the side lock firmly up there without relaxing. And then locking it open, and then, yes, it should lock open for you. Okay. The manual way. Okay. So yeah, consider finding yourself an ambidextrous gun to make your life easy on yourself. But if you can't, or your only option is a non-ambidextrous gun, just know that you do have, options of trying to do it manually too. Okay.
When you're shooting around other people, or even by yourself, right, you should be following the same safety etiquette. Okay, whether you're by yourself or with other people at gun spaces and gun ranges, right? When you have your unloaded pistol on the table or the bench, safety etiquette number 1, always have the gun with the chamber facing up, not this way. Left-handed folks, right? You may want to put it down naturally this way, but then you actually want to flip it over this way. Okay, we always want the chamber facing up. All right? So there's more chance that everyone around can see that clear chamber. That's first safety etiquette. Okay? 2, do not step in front of the pistol unless you have visually verified it's unloaded. Okay? Do not step in front of guns unless you know they're unloaded. You've verified for yourself. Okay? And then 3, if there are people in front of unloaded guns, let's say, I've seen families and some people are downrange setting up targets and other people are back here behind their backs handling guns. That is a big no-no. As long as there are people standing in front of unloaded guns, you step away, you don't even touch those guns. Very important safety etiquette when you are around other people with guns. Even though we know they're unloaded, you don't get that complacent about handling guns if there's people in front of their muzzles. Okay, folks? So, folks, to recap, let's do a quick refresher because I really want you to understand the mechanics of these semi-automatic pistols, right? We do a recap, right? I am going to make a gun to a gun, insert my magazine, wrap the slide, okay, chamber rounds. When I fire, remember these are dummy rounds, don't worry, we're just demonstrating. When I squeeze the trigger, right, I want you mechanically to understand step at a time again. Okay, so recap. When I squeeze the trigger, it releases the firing pin. The firing pin strikes the primer. The primer, when struck, ignites the gunpowder like a match. The gunpowder becomes a super hot gas. Super hot gas in the chamber has nowhere to go other than forwards and backwards. The gases will push the bullet under high pressure, high velocity towards your target. Boom. And then the gases go backwards. We have a special name in the gun world for the gases or the force going backwards. We call that the recoil. That's what recoil means. It's simply the force going backwards. So if you're shooting a pistol for the first time, you're going to experience the sensation of the muzzle lifting or rising. We call it muzzle flip, okay? Why does that happen? Physics, folks. It's biomechanics. You have a recoil, a force, above your grip going back towards you. So then your grip becomes a fulcrum or a rotation point, right? A lever, right? The force has got to go somewhere, so it lifts because it's above your grip. It lifts. What is rotating? What is the rotational point in your grip? Your wrist. Or wrist or a joint. You cannot lock your wrist, meaning that it's supposed to happen. There's a force going backwards, the recoil, and then our wrist got to give. Our wrist got to rotate, meaning don't be afraid of it. Let it happen. It's supposed to happen. Okay, don't try to overcompensate. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to overcorrect. Let it happen. It's supposed to happen, right? I want to demystify that for you folks, okay? And so use your imagination, yeah? The bullet went that way because I'm using my hand, okay? These are dummy rounds. But if this was actually live ammunition, the recoil, use your imagination, not my hand. The recoil then moves backwards, which ejects the spent casing, that very hot shell. Once the slide goes to the rear with the recoil, that humble little spring, the recoil spring, then returns the slide forward, which automatically loads the next bullet waiting its turn. It's chambered the next round for you. This is why they call it semi-automatic pistol. You load the first one yourself manually, and then every time you squeeze the trigger once, it's gonna fire one bullet. The recoil will move the slide automatically to the rear, eject the case, and then it's gonna return forward by the recoil spring and load the next one into the chamber. Over and over and over, one at a time, just like that, semi-automatic pistol, okay? And it's gonna do that until your magazine's empty, right? Let's imagine, again, use your imagination. I kept shooting this thing, right? And I got one last bullet in the chamber, right? Squeeze the trigger, fire a bullet, the recoil, not my hand, moves the slide to the rear automatically, ejects the casing, and then when your magazine's empty, it will automatically lock your slide open. This is your gun's way of saying, hey, your magazine's empty, you're done shooting, you can drop your magazine, and then you can get another fresh magazine, insert that one, and then rinse and repeat. There you go. That's a full cycle of operations for a semi-automatic pistol. So folks, now that you understand the proper way to unload a pistol, I am going to show you a common mistake that a lot of people make with these guns they don't fully understand, okay? I'm gonna pretend to be a cocky new gun owner who doesn't need a lesson because I'm a man, right? Male ego, okay? Folks at home watching me right now, I'm not gonna say what I did wrong. I'll give you a moment to reflect and see if you can figure out first before I explain the mistake, the very common mistake. Okay, here we go. Made a gun, take a gun. Index my magazine. Insert the magazine, okay? Remember, you have to manually load the first round of the chamber yourself. There, the gun is chambered, it is loaded. Now I'm gonna do something clearly wrong that I didn't show up to this point. It's a very common mistake people make. Here we go. Clear the chamber. Take out my magazine. Okay, you saw it clearly, the round clearly come out of my chamber when I cleared it. And then I took out my magazine, okay? Folks at home, I'll give you a moment, okay? I hope you recognized the mistake that I made, okay? It's a very clear mistake, okay? Now, if you don't know the mistake I made, again, let's follow the rules, right? We never assume the condition of a gun. We must visually inspect my chamber, okay? If I'm being an irresponsible or uneducated person who did it incorrectly, I would think my chamber is empty. But let's double check. Here we go. Oh, crap. It was not empty, okay? So, what was my mistake, okay? This was my mistake, folks. Here we go again. Make a gun, take a gun. Index your magazine. Insert your magazine. Rack your slide. Gun's loaded, it's chambered, okay? Mistake number one. I didn't take my magazine out first. The gun is a very dumb device. You can clear your chamber, but as long as the magazine's still there and there's bullets still waiting to be fed and waiting their turn, when you let go of the slide, it just loads the next one in its place. You're back to square one. The gun's still chambered, right? That was the mistake. People who understand these guns make this mistake all the time, and then they take out the magazine, and then they assume the chamber's empty, and then this is how people get shot. Okay, there have been many incidents of this very mistake. Okay, so folks, what's the lesson? Please don't ever do this mistake. What's the lesson? First, order matters. Always take out the magazine first. Deprive the gun of its main source of ammunition. Get rid of it first. And then clear your chamber. Did I even look at what I'm doing? I didn't. That's bad. Okay? Folks, I might guarantee that just because I rack the slide, whatever's in the chamber will come out. I'm not always guaranteed. In a very rare instance, let's say that your gun's all gunked up, you don't clean and maintain it. That little extractor I told you about that holds onto the rim of the case, maybe that thing failed. And it's not even holding onto the rim of the case anymore. It failed its job. Maybe over time, the spring that it uses has worn out. Okay? There have been instances where the extractor itself has failed. And I don't care how many times you rack the slide like this, the bullet's still sitting in the chamber. Okay? So then what's the last part of this? Never assume the condition of a gun. Always lock your slide open, look in there with your eyes and go, is the chamber really empty? Yeah, the chamber's really empty. Okay, please don't make that very common mistake when unloading these things. So I hope this video, thanks for following along. I hope it really demystified for you how these pistols work inside and out, and that you understand the mechanics, and that you don't make that very common mistake of the wrong order in unloading these things. Okay, always remove the magazine first before you clear the chamber, and then always verify that, lock the slide open and visually verify the chamber is indeed empty. It's empty. All right, thank you.
Folks, as a bonus, let's go over a question that I commonly get, and a lot of people commonly have as you start learning about pistols, semi-automatic pistols, and you go to the gun store and you see the dizzying array of different options in front of you, and the gun store people will start telling you things about these guns, and they'll ask you, do you want a gun with a manual safety or not? And maybe if you're new to guns, you automatically assume, I think a lot of beginners assume the word manual safety or having a very visible indicator that the gun is safe is preferable, right? Having this little lever up here, right? A very big manual lever telling them the condition of the gun would be preferable. That's people's automatic instinct when you're new to these guns. But the guns we use in class, the Glock pistols, have no manual safeties, okay? They only have what I call passive safeties, right? There's the trigger safety that it's passively there. Your finger's on the trigger when you intend to shoot, then that trigger is squeezed. Trigger safety squeezed. It's deactivated passively. You don't have to think about it, okay? There's an internal drop safety. There are no manual safety. You have to manually remember to turn on and off before you can fire this firearm, okay? So what should you be thinking about? Well, for the people that seem like you want to prefer a manual safety, let me give you two caveats or things to think about, okay, in your decision making. Human nature, this is what I've seen with a lot of people with manual safeties. Okay, I'm not saying everyone does this, but I'm saying it's common enough that I've seen it, where people with manual safeties, once they've loaded these guns, right, they'll chamber around, and then they'll put their manual safety on. Then, because they know their manual safety is on, they can see it very visibly, they start getting really loose and relaxed, right? Because they've dedicated safety to the little switch right here. They don't have to be as mindful or safe anymore, right? And that's kind of a really bad attitude, isn't it? Like, there are not enough levers to make a gun idiot-proof. So human nature, you're going to become complacent just because you assume this little switch is on. You don't have to be as cognizant or mindful or present about gun safety anymore. People get a little bit too over-reliant on that thing. You see what I'm getting at? Okay, that's one issue I've seen. Okay. The second, I also see this very commonly in my concealed carry classes, and there have been documented instances of this happening with professionals like police officers who carry guns on them for a living, okay, with these type of guns, okay? They will be on duty, they load chamber around, The gun is loaded. They'll put the manual safety on. They'll put the gun in their holster. They're going about their day. And then that life and death situation happens, right? Under panic, you instantly react. You don't have time to think or remember to do things. And under that panic situation, they'll pull out their gun, try shoot it, and nothing happens because they forgot to take their manual safety off. So think about what that kind of delay in getting that manual safety off and then firing your gun because you just weren't ready. What could that delay potentially cost you in a life and death situation, right? So I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to judge people that choose guns with manual safeties. I'm just saying that if you're going to choose it with manual safety, you better think about those two scenarios there, okay? And I'm not even saying like, hey, become over-reliant on the passive safeties either, right? Whatever gun you choose, whatever safety features and mechanical features the gun has, right? What is always the biggest safety on the gun? Please never forget that you are the biggest safety. It's not the mechanics, okay? The gun's primary job is not to be safe. Those passive safeties, that's not the primary job, okay? Those manual safeties, right? That's not what's primary keeping that gun safe. It's you, the operator, okay? You determine how safe these guns operate, okay? You're always the primary safety on a gun, okay? That's why I always, hammer into the students, as they're learning about these pistols. Never forget that you are the biggest safety on the gun, okay? And so I hope that helps you determine, right, the kind of gun you're going to choose. And am I biased? I am absolutely biased. Absolutely. I don't pretend not to be, okay? If you are new to firearms, if you're new to semi-automatic pistols, if you're going to own one gun for your home defense, self-defense, right? Knowing that human nature, there's no time to think, okay? And that you're going to be responsible about yourself and following the safety rules and be a good operator and owner of this gun. These are why striker-fired pistols with no manual safeties are the latest innovation. These guns no longer need manual safeties, okay? They're drop safe, okay? They're depending on you, the operator, to decide that when you decide to squeeze the trigger, because that was an intentional thing on your part, right? Hopefully responsibly, intentionally, the gun will fire because you told it to fire, okay? By putting your finger there. And when you don't want it to fire, it won't fire, okay? I'm absolutely biased, okay? I prefer striker-fired pistols. I know my level of responsibility and skill level. I don't need manual safety, okay? But are you just like me, right? Maybe not, okay? Maybe if you need that extra step, that extra obstacle or step to get the gun to fire, okay? If that's you, just remember those two different situations you still got to worry about, okay? That you don't get overly complacent, right? And over-reliant on it, where you start being lazy. And then when your life depends on it and you needed to fire that gun yesterday, that thing is still not on, okay? So just some things for you to think about. And I hope that helps answer one of the most common questions that we first get about these guns. You prefer to go with passive safeties or you prefer a manual safety, right? You decide what's best for you.
Thank you for taking the time to watch our Pistol 101A Friendly Intro to Firearms series. I hope you learned a lot, and here are next steps. If that was enough for you and you just want to understand firearm safety and how pistols operate and nothing more, great, I've done my job. And you can always rewatch these videos as much as you like. If later down the road, you are more curious and ready to handle the firearms in person and learn to shoot them, take our Pistol 101B, Accuracy and Best Practices, a 4-hour in-person class. You've taken part A, which is this video, and now you're ready to do part B in person. You get to practice loading and unloading a handgun, just like in the videos, to build confidence before you learn to shoot them. If you're watching Friendly Intro to Firearms as part of the full Pistol 101 course, we can't wait to have you in our class. If you enjoyed this series, please help us spread better awareness on firearm safety by sharing our videos, and I would love your feedback on how we can present this information better going forward, and what else you'd like to see from us. Until the next video, be well, stay safe.